I actually practice something called the process of unhooking, which might be really interesting. And essentially, first, you just focus on a deep, extended breathing. Now, the second part to instant presence is body awareness. And then the third tool or third part to instant presence is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the noise? I basically want to unhook in this cyclical way at least once a day. So basically, what I've learned is I never burn out anymore. And I used to burn out all the time, high days, good days, sick days, healthy days. And it was a roller coaster. And, I travel over 150 days out of the year. And essentially, we do over 100 events a year all across the world. I've never been this balanced as I am in today's, day because I follow this process of unhooking and I go back to breath as frequently as I can.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about mastering wellness through biohacking. I'm delighted to welcome Pavel Stuchlik. Pavel is a former professional athlete, globally recognized DJ and producer, serial entrepreneur, ambassador of peace, and Wim Hof instructor. You can reach Pavel at his website, noaaon.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Pavel. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you.
I'm excited to be able to talk about some things that are different, and I'm excited to just be able to kind of open people's eyes about different things that are available that maybe they haven't heard of before. And I checked out your website, and one of the lines that I just loved was, anyone can see results as long as they decide to do the work. So I would love to hear a little bit about your story. What results have you had, and what work did you have to put in?
Yes, I love that. Well, there's been a lot in my life. Basically, starting with Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue and depression in about the age of 18, I used to pursue professional athlete path. And so I was a road cyclist back in Europe. I'm originally from Czech Republic. And essentially, I think the first part of my life, I've just followed whatever the norm of society would be, make money, whatever fame, and kind of the ways how we appreciate or see success in this world. And in a simplest term, it made me really unhappy, depressed, tired, and sick. And essentially, I was about 18 years old where I also started my first company. I was trading between Alibaba and eBay, carbon bike frames, because I wanted to figure out how to, make means to be able to do that sport. And what it did, it completely crashed me. It kind of led into my first pivotal moment where I literally woke up in the hospital after a race, and my body completely shut off. And that's when I got diagnosed with, chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr, strep. I literally was sick every 2 weeks. And that's originally what led me into health, or alternative healing, so to speak, because, I had a suicidal moments in my life. I lost basically every hope that I cared for at that time, which was, sport, and I couldn't continue it. And so a little bit after I put all of my efforts into business and I moved to America. I went through a variety of different businesses to be able to qualify first on even having a visa here. So I went from a sushi restaurant to frozen yogurt chain all the way to Orange Theory Fitness. And Orange Theory Fitness was something that I bought into, several states as a master franchisee. And it was, extremely successful for the next 6 years. I've built the territory for almost 100 locations under my belt. But I hit the same pivotal moment again. I was following whatever the 100th location and all this expansion, and it made me even more tired and depressed, as if I had the same cycle again, like in a cycling career. And so during this time, I committed myself that every 3 months, I'm going to do something ridiculous, something outside of my comfort zone. And so I start searching this voice that kept on telling me there's more to life. This is not the answer. It just kept on being stronger and stronger. until I basically start booking myself flights to these locations around the world that, if somebody said we have an answer to a healthy body, I would book myself a retreat or a course. Somebody said, there's a way to heal your trauma. So I would move there and go through it. And so in the last 15 years, I spent traveling the world from place to place in basically following this voice of what is true meaning of life and what is true meaning of happiness and health and vitality. And it led me on this crazy journey through self, transformation. And so what I've been through is I've been able to tackle my biggest health issues, whatever it's mental, emotional, physical. Through these experiences, I've finally forgiven myself to not have to work so hard and think that I can learn these lessons through hardships, but I can also learn the lessons through love and joy, which now I get to do, which was a really amazing outcome. And so, in a simplest terms, I learn now from balance, happiness, harmony, even though we live an intense, crazy life full of travel, but now I live in service and now I get to do it with amazing people all across the world.
Wow, what a journey. That was a big journey. And it's so interesting. You start with the story of you are a person who um, has everything that everyone is looking for. You're handsome, you're an athlete, you are successful. On the appearance, everything looked fantastic. And yet it feels like something was missing inside. And it was so yelling so loudly that it puts you in the hospital. You wake up from a race, you start on a bicycle and end up waking up in a hospital. That's not a normal way to finish a race. So something was going on, and that searching inside. Okay, now we're going to do a reset. We're going to try it again. What are we looking for? We're looking what everyone is looking for. I want success. I want money. I want prestige. I want all of these things. Guess what? Check that box. You have it. And yet it wasn't the answer. The cycle continued. And now you're finding that there is something more that you were searching for, that peace, meaning, fulfillment, purpose. One of my favorite lines that you mentioned was that we can learn through hardship or through love. When I read the line about you can get results as long as you're willing to do the work, I think a lot of times people think work is hard. But you're saying there are a couple paths that can give results. One is hard work, and that works. Another is love, and that also works. And that's actually maybe more enjoyable. So you went all over the place. And one of the things I would love, if it's okay, can we talk about darkness retreats? Because this is something that was new to me. I was introduced to it by my son. He said, "Hey, do you want to do this darkness retreat with me?" And I said, "What is that?" So we looked it up, and I didn't actually go, but I was fascinated. It was something I had never heard of before and I didn't know it existed. So will you please explain it and why someone would want to do that?
Yeah. So Darkroom was one of those crazy experiences that I signed up for during that during that time. And it became my yearly reset. So I've done it now 5 times. I spent 10 days in darkness with no food, no light in the middle of Thailand. And so I go to Thailand with my incredible mentor. Her name is Jas Muheen. And she's somebody that has done incredible work in this lifetime, especially around uh, self-love, self-rejuvenation, and she's somebody that I became ambassador of peace under through her 8-point Luscious program. And essentially, it was about 8 or 9 years ago, the first time that I decided to go there. And I walked in there as a busy entrepreneur. So this was pre me, curating health events all across the world. And essentially, I just wanted to give my cell phone away and I wanted peace. And I was really attracted to it. So where I learned about it was from a different workshop from Drumvalo Melchizedek called Opening Illuminated Heart. And it tells you the different workshops that I went through. And basically, what they were talking about is this incredible power with eliminating all of the senses because we're living in an overly sensory world where, think about it, it's always either a smell, taste, or even just the amount of blue lights that we get to be exposed to from computers, artificial lights, and so on. And so basically, there's few things that happen in there. Number one, you completely lose your circadian rhythm, which is an interesting thing because within about 3 to 4 days of being in darkness, you start producing naturally DMT. And so it actually starts being light everywhere. So she actually teaches us meditations inside of the dark room to help you tone down the light because you can't tell, is it a dream? Is it light? Sometimes it's like really wild that you lose that sense of, some people call it matrix, right? Our reality. And then you also obviously detox, so it's 100% health improvement because whatever it's your eyesight, whatever it's just detoxing, giving the break for your body to have to digest, from everyday life is also, massive. And usually, especially, for me, the biggest breakthroughs happen towards the end, like day 7 and 8. The first time that I went, I just started crying and crying, and I went into this beautiful state of bliss. For the first time in my life, I was able to be in the place of being okay with who I am, and all of the judgments, all of the limits, and also primarily the monkey brain that we all deal with in today's world, that constantly is basically hijacking who we truly are. It was all just silenced. And the name Noah Aeon literally came from the first time I went into darkroom. And all of a sudden, I got this flood of information. And this information's always there, but too damn busy in our world to listen to, paying attention to these senses. So you open yourself up to your intuition. You open yourself up to creativity. You open yourself up to basically retunement of your instrument to be able to hear all of these things that you haven't been yet. So it's changed my life completely. I literally walked out of the dark room the first time and I start selling Orange Theories. I wanted to live in service. It gave me back my passion, which has always been music. So I literally started learning how to produce and how to DJ in solfeggio frequency. So it's a frequency based sound. It gave me my purpose, which was after all of these workshops that I've been through, you can't just keep it for yourself. You got to share this with other. And so that's what our events became, for. And it also gave me a new, mission, which is now, how do we unify the world one person at a time through all of these beautiful tools, and most importantly, human connection? How do we come back to one another and re-see each other for the greatness that we are, rather than the judgments that we leave behind? And so it's extremely beautiful reset.
Wow. Okay. So when you talk about putting in the work to get the results, let's talk about this experience. 10 days, and you turned into a different person. You walked in as this busy, successful entrepreneur, and then came out on the other side as someone who was filled with peace, contentment, passion, purpose, and mission. And so that was the result you got. That's huge. And it sounds like it came from turning off the outside for a long enough period of time that you could engage with the inside that says at its heart, I am okay. I am okay right here, right now. And that I don't actually need anything else to be okay. Isn't that amazing? Within a 10-day period, that change. So let's talk a little bit more about this darkness retreat. The ones that I looked into were only 5 days, so yours was twice as long, and they fed you. So you get no food. I mean, you have to drink or you would die. So, and you're by yourself, right? I mean,
So this one is in a group. So there's a group area, and then there's also your own rooms. So you can choose to be completely in silence and solitude, or you can choose to ask questions if you wish. So it's kind of like it starts with about five gatherings per day, and it goes down to nothing for the last 3 days. So every single day she limits the amount of exposure that we have to one another. And during this time you're still in silence, but you are in a group because I personally find it, beautiful in that way because you are in it by yourself, but you still sense and feel others around you. You sometimes bounce into someone, right, as you're like trying to find your room. That's the other funny stories that happen inside of dark room. Um, and yeah, so that's the flow. There's little balloons everywhere, so you can kind of feel in when you're getting close. And then there's access to water as well, so that way if you want to, you drink water. But this dark room is very different. It's an initiation into pranic living. So the woman that's behind this, she's a breatharian, and she teaches a totally different method, which is you're eating all the time, but you're not eating physical food. You're eating that limitless source of energy that's within all of us. And so it's really far out there. I don't always go into this, but after having the personal experience that you literally lose a sense of hunger throughout this experience, as long as you follow that guidance, you slow down your frequency and vibration enough to match it with this divine part of us that's everybody has in them, but not all of us activate because of the way we spend time. So the way we spend time is what determines everything. When we're like busy, 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 go, 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 we're more dense. We require more food. We require more of the worldly things. But then more subtle and more you spend time in timelessness, then you become lighter and lighter. Kind of like an example, if you've ever been, driven by a new project, new idea, you lose the sense of hunger, time. You're just so excited about something, whatever you're doing. That's very much that same, feeling to that.
Wow. Okay. That sounds intense, like you had an intense thing in order to get that intense response so very quickly. So I have a practical question, I guess. So you're in silence, you're together, but you're not talking. So everybody's just keeping their mouth closed. And uh, I guess you have to trust each other that you're all going to be quiet. And then how do you go to the bathroom? I mean, can you do you feel your way in the dark to get your water and to be able to, I mean, do you get to shower? I mean, how do you do this?
So there is shower and there is also bathroom in your room. So you find that after the like fifth time that I went in there, like I literally breezed through there, just like you get so well used to it. But also remember, you use other senses. So when you're not using your eyes, your ears become stronger. Your intuitive senses become stronger. So that's a real thing that happens physically as well. So you also, your smell gets so strong, like it's insane. Like you can literally, like if you have an essential oil or somebody puts essential oil and it's on the back, on the other side, you can smell them immediately. It's really crazy how all of the other senses and heighten, and vice versa. If somebody's detoxing, it's not really that great.
Wow. Boy, that's so interesting. Okay, so you have this experience. We're turning off the outside, we're turning on the inside. And you mentioned that part of this experience with it releases our body's natural DMT, which is sometimes called the spirit molecule. This is the same thing that is in like psychedelics but it's actually part of our body. It's in our brain, it's in our lungs, it's a part of us, and it is released during certain things like this prolonged period of darkness. And now let's change the channel just a little bit. If we want a result, but we're not willing to put in that intense of an experience, we can also help to turn down the outside and turn up the inside and release our body's natural DMT through breathing techniques. And that's very accessible because I don't have to travel to Thailand to breathe. So would you kind of explain a little bit about that?
100%. And it's funny. So I actually do a lot of breath work when I'm in there because it heightens the DMT. So you can actually have some of the deepest experiences, inside of darkroom. And just to end it with darkroom, I'm actually working currently on building one in Miami. So within the next year and a half, we will have one that is not going to be this long process. It will have a 1, 3, 6 day options, and it will be much more, I would say, luxurious compared to what you have in Thailand. So that way, everyday person, that would never want to travel this far will have the option. And I will be using her training that I've been through to basically be able to carry it on because this is her last darkroom this year. So all of the people that are going to carry that on, this will be our opportunity. And so this is something that I'm super excited about. I just had to, share that. And when it comes to the other part, so I actually practice something called the process of unhooking, which might be really interesting, through which I've been able to keep up with the darkroom experience on everyday basis. So if you think about it, most people when they go into a retreat, they kind of lose that high from the retreat when they go and get, smashed with everyday life, right? And so what I've learned is everything is cyclical. Every single cycle gives us an opportunity to learn, and we either run away from it, right? If it's too painful, and then we shove it down, and then it comes back eventually, or we look into it. So that way, whenever we focus on those things that are hard first, life becomes easy. Now, the key to every single cycle like this is our breath. Breath is what you're born with. Breath is what you die with. But what happens between the first and last breath is what literally determines the quality, the awareness of every single situation. Now, what happens when we lose our sight of breath? We tense up and we generally do a shallow breathing. That also interjects into the levels of consciousness. We basically become unconscious. We step into the autopilot, where 95% of all of our thoughts is repetition from the past, projecting to the future. And recent studies show that 80% of these are actually negative. So imagine that we have this negative Nelly, talking about ourselves and about another all day long. Now, how do we stop this madness and how do we take charge of our life and go into the conscious mind is through breath. So what I like to teach is something called instant presence. And essentially, first, you just focus on a deep, extended breathing. The gold standard is nasal breath. So you want to breathe about 6 seconds on inhale, 6 seconds on exhale, in and out your nose. So that way you're using your diaphragm, you're using your belly, extending into your chest, and really utilizing that whole capacity. Now, the minute that you do it consciously, right, you're immediately aware. You're immediately here. Welcome home, right? In the part of us. Now, the second part to instant presence is body awareness. We have lost ourselves in our thoughts. We've lost ourselves in computers, in our phones. And I'll give you an example. Say that you get on a phone and you start scrolling, right, up and down on Instagram. You lose the sight of breath, you tense up, and it sucks you in. And maybe sometimes 2 hours later, you realize, oh my gosh, what was I about to do? And that means that's the awakening of the conscious mind. So what I like to do is I ask myself, where am I? Where am I? Constantly, whenever I can remember. Because if you're anywhere in the past or future, you're not in your body. So basically, the simplest trick is you imagine that every single pore of your skin, or I like to imagine champagne like bubbles, bubbling up around your whole body. You relax your body. And when you inhale for 6, you draw through all the bubbles. You draw through your whole body. And when you exhale for 6, you relax into your body. So that way, it's almost like your body is breathing you. So you can be fully aware in your bodysuit, not somewhere on a phone. And then the third tool or third part to instant presence is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the noise? So for example, you could be in the middle of airport, right? It's noisy and people think that's not a place to meditate. Well, you can meditate in every single second of your life as long as you are aware of your breath. You're fully in your body, aware of your body in a relaxed state. So we don't do the chronic tensing. And then you can pay attention what's underneath the noise. It's an instant way to come into presence. And now it allows you, instead of reacting to things, instead of going from a place of reaction, I like to call it proaction. You take a step back, you neutralize, and then with a cool head within yourself, you go in to make the changes. Now, what if next time that you went on your phone, you were aware of your body, you were aware of your breath, and it just became an extension of you, right? So it's nothing wrong with using technology. It's losing ourselves in the technology. And this applies to anything external, anything that we live in and any cycles that come in. This is what I call the process of unhooking. I basically want to unhook in this cyclical way at least once a day. Now, the first 30 minutes or an hour of the day, I literally don't go on a cell phone. I go inward. I go into breath, meditation, maybe nature. I ask whatever my heart's calling is that is not the notifications, because that's what steals us away. Now, once a week, I spend full day off. I digitally, physically fast, and the first half a day, I'm in nature by myself. The second half a day, I introduce my kids and wife, so also relationships. Once a month, I spend 3 to 4 days completely off. And once a year, I spend 10 days in darkness and another week after for integration. So basically, what I've learned is I never burn out anymore. And I used to burn out all the time, high days, good days, sick days, healthy days. And it was a roller coaster. And I've learned this from my wife. My wife gets a period once a month. And just like the period happens in a cyclical way, the same way we go up and down in life. And so when we start dancing through this and noticing the times when we need to take off, break, and restore so we can go into offense again and like power up, then when we focus on these rhythms, literally you will not burn out. And I travel over 150 days out of the year. I'm on an airplane. So, imagine the level of amount of flights that we go through. And essentially we do over 100 events a year all across the world. And I've never been this balanced as I am in today's, day, because I follow this process of unhooking and I go back to breath as frequently as I can.
100 events a year. There's only 365 days in a year. So you're doing an average of more than 2 events a week?
Sometimes 3 a day. Yeah, so we go in and
Three a
out
day.
of tours. We just finished. We did 7 events in 8 days. We started in South Carolina, ended in Vancouver, and so when we're on tour, we're literally every single night in a different city, teaching different practices like this.
Fascinating. So one of the big takeaways is you're able to do all of this, be this productive, be this proactive, this connected without burning out because you are dancing with the cycles rather than fighting them. And you are in tune with your schedule includes daily and weekly, monthly, and annual rituals to help keep you in tune with yourself so that the outside world is an extension of you, not something that sucks you up and assimilates you. So I really appreciate that you gave those 3 things of let's unhook by becoming, using our breath, using our body, and also finding the stillness underneath. And you can even find it in an airport. And it sounds like you're in the airport a lot. So if it's possible to be able to find that stillness in an airport, we can probably find it anywhere through those 3 simple steps to connect. Now, I imagine for most people, they'll probably think that small daily routine is something that's doable, whereas 10 days in the dark is going to be quite a stretch and maybe even not desirable for most people. But that is amazing. What a beautiful takeaway that it's possible to experience peace in a hectic world because we live in a hectic world and we want peace. And you have shown that it's possible to have both.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so you don't have to do such extreme like dark room. I mean, you can take a vacation, right? You can go to a yoga retreat. And what I always tell people, people are like, how am I going to take 3 or 4 days off, in a month? And I'm like, do you live your life or do you live somebody else's life? We need to learn how to have a proper boundaries and we need to come first. This is the most important thing that we forget in this life, and especially mothers, they're the first ones to forget that because if you're not good, how else is everybody else going to be good? And I'm talking about, these long processes. I'm talking about once a day, you start a day with you so you can keep on smiling. You follow your passions, you follow your heart. So that way when you show up again, right, the next day, you can do it again. And then once you build up that foundation, then one day off per week is nothing, right? Like if you really care for yourself to restore. And then once per month to just do a 3, 4 days, you can plan in advance. And people will actually respect you so much more when you tell them this is for me time. And you will inspire that many more people because now they will understand that they come first as well.
Isn't that fascinating? When we give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves, it automatically gives permission to other people. Maybe something they've never thought of before. It's like, wait, I'm allowed to do that? I can take some time for me. I can prioritize me. Is that okay? And being able to understand that, yeah, that is okay. In fact, you're going to be better off for it is just I think a whole revelatory idea to a lot of people.
It's like when I stopped drinking alcohol, at first it was this socially acceptable thing. But then like what? Like why am I poisoning my liver? Why am I literally putting toxin into my body? And have I ever done any good decision or felt good after something, right? Even just one. It's like when I start thinking about it, just with that, like now, first of all, I have a new friendships with so many other people that wouldn't even be there, right? That are no longer pulling the worst of each other, right, on the other extreme. And now I get to be with, I call it the army of angels that I surround myself with, that we pull the best of each other. And this is why podcasts like this and your work is so important in the world, because you're opening up this flood gateway to something new that inspires and educates others. So also thank you for all that you're doing for your community.
Oh, I appreciate that. And isn't it wonderful when we become aware? And sometimes we have to hear some new ideas before we find that one thing that just resonates with us. It's like, oh, that's what I've been waiting for. That little piece of information is just the thing that I need. This has been so delightful. Is there anything you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
I would just say the time is now. So many people like are waiting for something, and I hear so many people like have to think through things. Like, don't think through anything. Like, you're living one life, very short in a long span. And like, if you're having a calling that like you've been always wanted to start, I don't know, painting or dancing or whatever the craziest, wildest things you've ever had that's accessible to you right away, like do it. Do it and do it. And I always like to tell people if you can just commit 1 to 4% of your time every day on realizing your dreams, it's an accumulative effort, at least 365% increase at the end of the year. So like people talk about law of attraction, like it's all in your hands. Win the action that you make on everyday small little piece and bits and bases.
I appreciate that. And saying 1%, that feels doable. That feels like maybe I can do that. I can put 1% of my time into me. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Paulo Coelho. He said, "When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too." Today, I invite our listeners to do the work to become better. Then we can enjoy the wellness and limitless love. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.